All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Ivy Games Weekly. We have the wonderful Austin Harrison, who
Hi.
just pressed the go live button.
Yes.
And, well, hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning
Oh,
in
that's
to
fun.
this week's
Oh, no.
Ivy Games Weekly.
I hear myself.
On a delay.
On a delay. What's
what have
happening?
we
The
done?
wonderful
You gotta go
Austin
mute
Harrison,
the-
who just,
the live stream. I was
pressed
like,
the go live button.
why am I talking?
and-
I wonder if they hear it too. They probably do. This is great. I think so. I think we're good. Okay. Yeah. As you might be able to tell, we have no producer today. Sam, who is usually producing, is got called away a bit last minute, and so we are self-producing. So when I press buttons over here, it cuts magically.
It's magic.
And also today we have the amazing Omari Akil joining us, special guest to talk about his game that is currently live on
Right
Kickstarter, Hoop Godz.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, that was so disconcerting hearing yourself talk on a
Oh, yeah,
10-second delay.
I'm
Whew, that was rough. Sorry, guys. That was totally my fault.
I may not recover.
10 seconds is harsh. That throws everything off.
Yeah, because we didn't even realize it was a problem until 20 seconds into the show, basically. Oh, gosh. Anyway, Omari, I've been watching Hoop Godz. We've been talking for a month now just about Veiled Fate and about Hoop Godz and about Kickstarter, so it's really good to have a face-to-face, as close as you can get in COVID, conversation. And really excited just to kind of hear about you and your game. But something that we didn't do last time that we want to do this time is just give you an opportunity to talk about Hoop Godz for people that have known nothing about it. If you can just give a quick overview.
Yeah, sure. Hoop Godz is a two-player head-to-head street basketball game, and we really tried to get all of the kind of exciting moments and tension and randomness and dynamicness of basketball and put it into this game, and it works. I think really the thing that people love the most about it is kind of these two systems that we have for how everything works in a game. One of them being the juice system, which is the energy that all your players have. So you get to choose a set of ballers. They all have unique abilities and they come in different sizes with different benefits and penalties potentially. And you choose that team and then you use this juice system to kind of manage all of their actions on the court. And that juice system, basically every action you do causes you to spend juice, and you have to strategically kind of figure out when to rest and recover it. And both players are going back and forth doing that. And then at the same time, every time there is two actions on the court that kind of butt heads. So one person is going for a steal, the other tries to crossover. We have this real-time dice battle that happens to figure out who actually prevails in that moment. And so, yeah, the combination of like those two systems just going back and forth through the game is pretty great.
So this was like one of the things that Zach and I talked about before the show, where it was like, oh man, that like panic inducing, like don't roll the dice on the floor. I have to keep rolling on the table. Like I have to get sounds really, really fun as a real time mechanic, because real time means so many different things in games. Like there's Captain Sonar where it's like the whole thing's real time, but that's like too panicky for me. And it just like gives but like little instances of real time is really fun idea.
Man, I'm so impressed. Like it seems like you've so well captured like the actual strategy of playing basketball, like, and with like also like some of like the more fun elements of it, I guess, that like that makes, I don't know, like I really get the sense that you were going for this feeling of like what's it like to, go to the park with my friends, or maybe even people I don't know, and play a game of basketball, and like the feeling of that. And I get like throwbacks even with art to like older video games and stuff of
totally.
What is the
Street Jam?
Yeah, Street Jam. I don't know if that was an influence at all, but
NBA Jam.
NBA Jam.
NBA Street. Yeah, you just mashed them together.
I did. It's just, I'm really into basketball, if you couldn't tell. No, I am, for those of you that don't know, I am like 5'5".
I don't know.
You should know this, right?
I would think that you would know, but
I should know. I think I just add a couple inches to whatever my real height is. So I played a lot in middle school when everyone was my height, but then I stopped growing and everyone else kept growing, and then I just stopped playing basketball. But that does not take away from my appreciation of the sport. I think it's great. I just am not good at it. But one thing that I watched a few previews and reviews of, and they were like, there's just these surprising moments that kind of take you to like the real-time feeling of like a steal in basketball or an unexpected play. And one of those was the GOAT cards. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so the GOAT cards were kind of an interesting late addition for us. And basically what the GOAT cards are, they're kind of rule breaking. They're cards that are one-time use, special abilities. They can get you out of a jam. They can let you jam when you may not be able to. And the cool part about the GOAT cards is, and the reason we actually put them into the game was because like I said, the juice system, you have to use energy. And there's a part of the juice bar where if you go too far, like you expend too much energy on one turn, what happens is the energy that you use, the juice that you use, goes into a box and it gets locked in there. It's like it's too exhausting, right? So we wanted to force you to feel that. And in a few, like some earlier designs of the game, people just weren't going far enough. And we wanted to really get people to push the limit. So we decided on this idea of GOAT cards, and you can only get them by pushing the limit of your players when you play. So yeah, so it incentivizes you to kind of make really big turns and try to do, really big moves on your turn by giving you one of these cards, even though there's a tiny penalty of, some of those juice tokens getting locked in. You can get them out, but it takes a few turns, like to actually kind of make that happen. And so, yeah, we were just trying to incentivize that, but then we ended up coming up with some really good ones and we really liked. And so even those are like super thematic. So we were able to kind of, get people more engaged in the game and have a little bit more exciting things happening just by introducing those.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the illustration too on the goat. It looks like the Chicago Bulls turned into a goat, and I love it. I don't know if that was the actual inspiration.
I feel like that's my I feel like that was probably my best idea ever.
That's
from an
amazing.
artistic standpoint, because I'm not the artistic one, and I was like, Hamu, can you make the Bulls logo look like a goat? It was funny. He sent me a version of it, and I was like, something's missing. It doesn't look quite goat-like. I was like, let me look at a picture of a goat. And I was like, it's the eyes. You have to make those goofy eyes. And he changed the eyes, and it was like, yep,
it's a goat
now.
So speaking of goats, then I have to ask, who you got, LeBron or MJ?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Oh, I always MJ.
Oh,
I can't.
Really?
I can't go the LeBron angle. It's really hard for me to accept that.
Is it a championship issue for you, or what's holding you back from LeBron taking that title?
It's not. I think for me, like MJ and all that he brought to culture, not just basketball and skill, just kind of pushes him over the top for me. There's really nothing like the sort of movement that MJ produced in terms of so many things, basketball and outside of basketball.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think LeBron's still got time. I don't know. I'm a big LeBron fan, so
it's possible.
He's got that like VC firm he's like working on right now and investing in some like media startup stuff. So like I think he might get there. His shoes nowhere near the Jordans. I mean, it's not even close. So I mean, he's got that against him. But
even things like, I think about like the McDonald's, like Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. They throw in the basketball, bouncing off of a million things, and go like, there's just so many pieces. But you're right. You're absolutely right. LeBron has time. I think if and especially if he really dives into more of the philanthropy angle, we could. I think we could see like a long-lasting legacy from him too.
Totally, definitely.
We have a question from YouTube, and it's just a clarification question. But if you do have an actual question too, please just let us know in the comments, and we'd love to answer it at the end. It can be for us, it can be for Omari. We can talk about whatever. They want to know more about the juice system. They were hearing it as the juke system, and it's not juke, even though that is a basketball term.
Sure.
It is the juice system. So how did you guys decide on that system, and can you just tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I can totally tell you about it. So it was very much inspired by, if anyone has played Terra Mystica, there's this sort of clock-like mechanism where you're managing, I think it's Arcana in that game, and I just was so fascinated by how that system worked, that I really wanted to try and do something like that. I knew it wouldn't work exactly the same because we were talking about energy, which is a different type of resource than sort of magic. I guess they're similar in a lot of ways. But when we were thinking about energy, we were like, okay, we need you to expel energy and you need to be able to get it back. We want that part of the game to really kind of manage the pace and the flow. And so, so basically on your turn, you spend juice, and at the top of your player board, there's sort of a red, yellow, and green bar, and you're spending juice. You start spending juice in the green, and as you fill it up, it gets into the yellow and then gets into the red. And then at the end of your turn, it slides down into these boxes that are also colored, and it gets stuck there. And so the way that you can get it back is by resting. And resting just means that you take a turn using a very limited amount of juice. It's either 1 or 2. And if you use basically 1 or 2 juice, there's a little line. And if you don't cross that line and you end your turn without crossing that line, then you recover juice. And then you'll be better for the next turn. Nice. So yeah, it's just, it's actually very simple in terms of how it works, but trying to figure out how to effectively manage that. And also your opponent always knows how much you have, right? Like all of this is on the table. So a lot of the game is like, okay, I have 6 juice left. I want to move twice. I want to, try to put up a shot and also boost that shot, give myself an extra dice. That's going to cost me 5.
Yeah.
And I'll have 4 dice to roll. Okay, that's great. But my opponent has 6, which means they can get to that spot, attempt the block, and potentially add dice. And if they go all in, they will be in a better position than me. So you're always just trying to like monitor that and figure out what's the best move on your turn based on how much juice you have and how much juice your opponent has.
So then I imagine you could like expend a ton of extra juice on a turn that might put you kind of in the red, but for like that really big, jam or that big moment essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really why we put the gold cards in there to encourage that kind of thing. And for us, designing games, and especially the types of games where we're trying to bring in people from outside the hobby, like they're very easy to learn and pick up. And so the real intention of the juice system was not to complicate the rule set, to make the rule set easy. And so the thing that I tell people a lot of times when I'm teaching the game is if you have the juice, you can do it. Yeah. And so there's no like artificial limitations on what you can do other than, do you have enough energy? Okay, do whatever you want on your turn.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you can fill that bar, you can do it short. And that to me was important because it simplifies the rule set down a lot when we have that. The only exception is passing. You have to pass. It has to be the first thing you do on your turn. And there's a little special juice bubble just for that.
Okay, nice.
So just looking at the GIF on the Kickstarter page, I mean, that's so clear. Just like the way you've laid everything out looks really, really great. And I think it's wonderful that you've made those little boards. And I think it does look like a game that is approachable from outside the hobby, which is hard to do.
Yeah. And you mentioned audience just a second ago. I'm curious, like how much are you thinking about audience when you are designing your games, and like where did that kind of come into the creation of this game? Like in thinking like, I've got this group of people that I'm trying to hit. Maybe it's a little bit more approachable. Yeah, how much did you think about the audience for this game while you were making it?
I think for us, just as a company, that's part of our goal. We're always thinking about audience. I think all of our games, ultimately, we want to make them appealing to people inside the hobby
Hmm.
and outside the hobby,
Oh yeah.
very specifically. So we're always kind of on like in this fine line of trying to design games that are intriguing enough and interesting enough and have interesting enough mechanics for people who are in the hobby, but they're easy enough to learn and the theme fits well enough so they can connect to it if they're outside the hobby too.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, definitely easier said than done because it's it's tough to get that depth, but then also that approachability like at the same time. But it seems like you've got a real winner here, which is exciting. And I love that thought in general. I just think that like board gaming in general is like potentially still in like it's growing like crazy, but it could very much well be in its infancy. So
Yeah,
um,
that's it's
I
wild.
yeah, I'm curious if you thought about that, like just the industry as a whole, like how it might grow and like how that audience size might grow kind of as a whole.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think our philosophy on just board games and where it's going and where it could go. I think about indie video games,
Hmm.
10 years ago
Yeah.
and where those were. And, people who considered themselves gamers who were playing those in the beginning, it was a very independent group. But now we have games, that come out from smaller teams that get spread like crazy and have a much wider
Yeah,
audience now more than ever because slowly we've just we keep making games that are different and interesting and bringing more and more people in, and now video games is like a sort of standard part of everyone's daily
Oh yeah.
life. If you're not
yeah,
a console gamer, you're a mobile gamer,
Yep.
hmm,
or a PC gamer, and now with VR, like that's adding another element, and people are
yep,
gonna stumble into VR games even if they're using VR for other reasons. I
Hmm.
yeah,
think board games have a lot of the same potential. If, as long as we're putting out really cool, interesting, different games, more people are going to see that. More people are start going to introduce that into their lives.
hmm,
Everybody's not going to have 500 board games in their library,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we'll get a few on some people's shelves
yep.
in a couple years that wouldn't have even thought about it before.
Totally. I love that. And two things on that. It's just like you're doing such a fun thing by going after the basketball audience of like, that's not an audience that people think, oh, those people are also board gamers. And so I love
Yeah.
that as just like bringing more of them into the hobby, but also like, think of our parents' generation. Like they all had Monopoly, they all had Sorry, they all had the Game of Life. Like they all had board games, and that was like their board game movement. And then it
Hmm.
just died. A lot of us would say because those games weren't actually very good, which we'll get some comments about that. But anyway, and like I do think that there is a very viable market for more intense board games, more detailed board games, modern board games, like the Catan movement, but broader, where all
Hmm.
of our all of our friends are like, oh yeah, like you break out your copy of Hoop Godz, I'm not bringing mine tonight. Like like that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
For every designer, and not just because that probably means you've made a lot of money on it, but because you've had an impact on culture and an impact on the board game market, and people are playing your games and having fun, and I feel like that's the dream of every designer. But moving away from audience, how do you start your process?
Yeah, and with this one in general, I'll add to that. Like, did you set out to make a basketball game, or was it like I got a cool mechanic, this could apply to a basketball game? How did that kind of start for you?
It was kind of both. So when we started Rap Gods, it was really just, oh, we want to make a hip hop game, but we were thinking just larger about our company, and like we wanted to at least produce a few games in a row that were very different,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and we were thinking about what that looks like, and so Rap Gods is more of a light Euro game, and we were trying to identify different types of games we would maybe want to do. The next game we actually came up with was a very small 80 card or 90 card game about graffiti.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was, we attached that graffiti idea because it was kind of an extension of hip hop. And so we went to that next, and it was like, okay, well, we have this pure card game, we have this Euro game, and we both love dice, probably me more than my brother. And I was like, I would love to do a game that focuses on dice as the sort of main component. And we had basketball already listed as a theme that we wanted to tackle. I was like, what about a basketball dice
Yeah.
game? And it really started there. And it was just like, that sounds like a terrible idea, but we could probably make it work. So let's do it.
We played fairly recently. It's an Arkham Horror game with dice as the main mechanic.
Yeah, what is that? It's not Elysium. And it's not here. I don't think it's here.
Anyway, but it's an Arkham Horror dice game, and that was the first game in a long time
Elder
that I
Sign?
played. I think it is Elder Sign.
Elder
yeah.
Signs.
The first game I had played in a long time that used dice as the major mechanic, and I loved it. And I'm really excited to play Hoop Godz for that reason, just because very different. Like in that game, you know from the beginning like exactly what you're going to need to play, but it seems like in Hoop Godz, like you're trying to roll dice to even activate cards, right? That are in your hand that you're playing.
Yeah, so all the action cards are the way that they work is that they have a pattern, a symbol pattern of dice symbols that are on the dice. And so whenever you play that card, in most cases, your opponent is going to have enough juice to play a reaction card against that. And so whenever those two cards appear, yeah, that's the real-time dice piece is that you're rolling the dice to match the symbols on the card as fast as possible.
So if I can request an add-on, a Hoop Godz dice tray seems awesome. And you can even have it like a little basketball, like half court in there. Like that seems amazing. I know I hate it when people do this to me,
That's
especially
good.
live on the air, because it's like, yeah, well, great idea, Austin, but that would cost like $30 a dice tray.
Austin's pitching right now, though.
But I am notorious for rolling my dice off the table. And I would
It's
be
a
like,
real problem
I would be
sometimes, yeah.
so careful. I would just be like, don't roll off the table, don't roll off the table, don't roll off the table. Because I love the real time aspect. I'm going to use a dice tray when I play this game, just so Zach doesn't beat me because I check my dice too hard. But yeah, if it blows up, and I think it has a real chance to hit your stretch goals you have on the page already, maybe just think
I
about that.
I love the idea, so I'm not marking it off my list at
Okay.
all.
So I'm curious, were there any like dice chuckers or any other games that you were kind of playing while in development that kind of had a big influence, or really any games at all that you were playing during the development of this game that kind of
Yeah.
influenced the game?
So I would say so Escape is actually one of my favorite dice chucking games. I love that sort of co-op and campaign style of like getting out of this temple, and there's so many different actions that have to happen, and everything is really dependent on the dice. So that one has always just stuck with me. I haven't played it in a while, but it's always been like at the top of my list in terms of real-time dice games are concerned. And then another one that I actually think was a bigger influence in the first iteration of Hoop Godz was actually Roll for the Galaxy.
Nice.
So that game and kind of the way that they utilize the different symbols, and it was way more strategic in terms of like selecting the type of dice that you want to kind of optimize building out your civilization in that game. And the original version of Hoop Godz actually had a little bit of that, where you would have to kind of select different types of dice from dice pools in order to kind of tweak your team's style, right? So in that original version, you could choose a dice that would have sort of more speed and agility, or you could choose a dice that had more sort of like brawn and defense.
Oh, that's cool.
And that would affect how you could do moves. But overall, that game was just too complicated.
Yep.
It was so hard to manage all of those dice choices. And in general, it was just too slow. I think the first demo we had where we had a working version, it took like 45 minutes for somebody to score, which is not basketball.
Oh, no, yeah. Make it soccer right there.
So
Exactly.
Omari, you said something that just resonates really well with us, I think, at least with me, of like having a really good idea. And it seems so good during the planning phase, and you get it into the game, and you're like, this is just too complicated. It's a good idea. It's a good mechanic. It works on paper, but it doesn't fit the game. And that's something that is really hard as a creator because you get so many good ideas from your team, from yourself, from other people that are outside, and like distilling the game down to its simplest form is so hard. Are you the person on your team that does that, or do you like? For me, I am not. I am the hey, I know I want this in the game, and Zach's like, no, it needs to come out because it's not good person. Like on your team, is it? Are you? Which one are you? You, me, or Zach? Or if that wasn't clear,
I'm probably Zach. If Zach is the one that
Nice.
cuts it down
Yeah.
and kind of removes the fat to get to you know what's good and fun and playable and manageable. Yeah, that's mostly my responsibility. But I feel like you need that balance, right? Like my brother is not afraid to throw any idea out there at me
Oh, yeah.
for a part of the game design, and I'm like, sometimes I can very quickly say, yeah, that's too much. It's going to make everything weird. But oftentimes it's like, you know what? That's interesting. I don't know. Let's try it. And sometimes we get cool stuff out of that. So yeah, you need both. So
Yeah,
good
you need
job,
both.
of you working together.
Yeah, and you can always try to work in some of the more complicated stuff in a later expansion. Like it's possible. Like it'd be something that the people that love your game and have played it 20 times would really appreciate. So it's always possible.
So I'm curious, how did you manage playtesting for Hoop Godz? Did kind of COVID get in the way of that a little bit, or what ended up happening?
Only at the end. I think the core game of Hoop Godz was actually done probably I want to say November, December of last year.
Okay,
So
nice.
we had really the core game down. It needed some tweaks. I think the new thing was probably the GOAT cards. I think we had just introduced those early this year because we were really, just tweaking some of the design. But it was a good thing we actually had most of that done because COVID has definitely affected our playtesting. Most of it has been digital, which you don't get the feel of the real-time aspect necessarily. You get some of it, but you don't get all of it.
Yeah, like trying to roll the
And
dice as fast as possible. That just doesn't have the same thrill when you're clicking a mouse.
not exactly, right? Like it's kind of there, but it's not all the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys use Tabletopia or TTS for testing online?
We've been using Tabletopia
Nice.
pretty much for all of our testing and everything. And that's largely because we are trying to run test as much as we can with people outside the hobby who aren't going to necessarily invest in Tabletopia
That
for
makes
a
sense.
test. So
That was a good
optimal
call.
for us.
I know if it was on TTS, I would be like deleting Zach's dice while we were doing the like head-to-head stuff. So it's probably good it's on Tabletopia
It's
anyway.
dirty.
Oh goodness! But yeah, I'm excited to play it. We should
I'm
get on
excited to
there.
play it too. So I'm curious. I mean, this is not your first time around. Is there any lessons that you think that you brought from previous games like Rap Gods to this game, whether it be like the actual game design itself or even the process of launching a game?
Ooh, I mean, we learned lots of lessons. I think starting with a big game or a medium-sized game as your first title, it was a big challenge. And so I think we automatically are going to take a lot more care with, any games that have the number of components that Rap Gods has, because that was just a huge learning curve, and it was hard to work with that our first time out the gate. So one big lesson was kind of just understanding that the scope of the game really changes that entire process in so many different ways. And so working on some smaller games, I think now we have a better grasp of that, and we can kind of move forward and plan better for a few more titles. We're about to and sort of starting on a bigger game that might even be a little bigger than Rap Gods.
Wow.
So it's that one's super scary still, but I think we can plan better now that we kind of know that. Because the process, it gets so much more complicated when you have that many more moving parts and systems to manage and design and balance.
Yeah.
So thinking about smaller games is a nice I think, thing that we've learned and understand a little bit better.
Yeah, that's hard for anyone. Like we have a couple of people in our Discord even that are making games, and like I want to make the games that I love playing the most. And the problem with that is like my favorite game is Twilight Imperium 4. So getting to that is a little difficult, right? It's not that's not a first
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And we definitely didn't do a light game with Moonrakers, our first game, but like, yeah, you're right. Like that, keeping those components down and keeping your costs down is really good, but also just making it a more approachable game that more people can get in on and more people in the hobby can play easily. Like Twilight Imperium is not approachable. If they didn't have the huge audience that they did, it never, would have taken off. So, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
good advice for
It,
first-time creators and a good lesson. It sounds like to learn. But now that you've got this 2 projects underneath you, I'm excited to hear what your third game's going to be.
Yeah. Any sneak peek details? Putting you on the spot.
well, the 90 card graffiti game that we created was actually finished and ready to go, but it was eventually somewhat recently signed to another publisher.
Oh, great!
Oh,
Congrats.
That's
very
actually
cool.
going to come out from a different publisher, and it is going to be a different theme entirely.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we actually got to work with them on retheming it and kind of making the game work with the new theme. So we had to make some changes based on
Sure.
that.
Hmm.
So we don't have any info about timeline or anything on that, but we turned everything over. It looks good. They've showed us a bunch of sort of proofs of what the everything looks like in it, and we're satisfied. We're excited about it. So there will be potentially something coming out next year from us
Nice.
under another publisher, and we have a couple other designs that we're working on. None of them feel like they're ready to be talked about.
Yeah.
But I have some interesting mechanics that I'm playing around with. One of them that I think I'm going to probably work on a lot more in the short term is actually a little worker placement memory game.
Ooh. That sounds fun.
That is, yeah, another set of mechanics that I wasn't really sure how it will work. But I really like the gameplay right now, and it still needs work. But I got it to the point where it felt good overall in terms of what I had put together, and I'm excited about moving forward on that. We did also start working on a sneaker culture game, but
Ooh.
it's stalled a little bit.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have the pieces that we need to make that work right now. And it was actually the person who I was co-designing with got pregnant, just had a baby, and so that kind of messed with our timeline a
Sure.
little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
And
why.
COVID happened kind of at the same time. So
Nice.
yeah, it was like,
Uh,
so hopefully I'll get back to that design with her, and we'll
That's
be
cool.
able to figure something out. And I would love to have that one at least play testing heavily sometime next year too.
Sweet. Yeah, man, you've got a lot of stuff going on. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's great.
Can you talk to us a little bit about and if you don't want to, that's totally fine, but the process that you approached with your 90 card game that was originally a graffiti game? How did you approach publishers? Did you go to cons and
Yeah.
do like speed dating? Like how'd you go about shopping that around?
We just got super lucky. It was not a normal situation. We didn't actually pitch. Technically, I would say I haven't pitched a game to a publisher yet.
Hmm.
This was a situation where we had talked about sort of talked about working together, but not in any real capacity. I ended up showing them and actually having them play test this game at a convention, not with any intention of pitching. But they sort of knew that I was working on a few designs. And they actually came to me, and this new game is a licensed game, and they said, "Hey, we have this license. Do you think it would fit one of these
Ooh.
Oh, that's
games
cool.
That is cool.
you have?" And so it was like, okay, can we make this game fit the theme for this license? And it I feel like it worked out really well. So
Awesome.
I'm excited for that one for sure.
Nice. Yeah, we're like we've made 2 games, and they were our own IP. I'm in the camp of it would be really cool to work on with someone else's IP. Zach loves making his own IP, so I get why he's.
I mean,
it'd be fun depending on the IP.
It depends upon the IP, but pros and cons for sure. But what was that experience like? Like kind of working in with a license? Like I mean, maybe we'll have to have you on again when that game comes out. We can talk about it in more detail. But was that challenging?
It wasn't super challenging, I would say, because the theme is still kind of adjacent to what we were creating. So it's not related to graffiti necessarily, but the gameplay, the style that we created. So I can tell you a little bit about the old game. You would try to. It was a simultaneous reveal card game, which I just love that idea because it creates again this like very interesting moment. And so the way that original game worked is during the day you would play a card, everybody simultaneously, and it would be like a setup card for you to be able to do something cool and go out and tag spots at night. And so then you would basically see what happens, and those cards that you played during the day, they might knock each other out. They might give you a bonus for the nighttime. And it was actually kind of like a rock paper scissors thing that could happen in the day. And then you would flip over to nighttime and you would actually send your nights out. And it was kind of a bidding bluffing game with the same concept where everybody reveals at the same time. And then whoever has the most, sent the most graffiti artists out to a specific spot, then they would get that spot.
That's sweet.
So
I like that a lot.
The concept for the new game is kind of similar in that like you're all competing over a sort of a spot, and because that was the case, it wasn't necessarily that difficult to translate it. So It worked out really well. I feel like in general, the entire process was super, I think, simple compared to what a lot of people probably have to go through to deal with the license or to work with a publisher. This was just happened to be a really good fit, and we didn't have to change it that much. So it really, really worked out well.
Awesome. Well, we should definitely plan on having you back on to talk about that because I'm excited to hear more about that. And it is so interesting when you're working with IP. Like sometimes you have to like build the game to match the IP perfectly. And I think a game that does that really well is like Star Wars Rebellion. Like that is a game that I talk about it a lot. I know. That is a game where they built the IP. They built the whole game around the IP. Like all the mechanics are really built because of the IP. But that's not the only way to go about that. And it sounds like you had made a really good game that just happened to also fit easily in with the IP, and that's awesome that worked that way. But yeah, that's
we definitely had to tweak it, but it was totally a good process. And I am also I have started down the process of trying to work with somebody else's IP from the beginning.
Nice.
And that has proven to be way more difficult. So far, so many different ideas. And also when you're working with somebody else's IP, especially if it's a newer IP, which this one is, I don't know enough about it, right? Like it's not like Star Wars where I'm steeped in it already. It's an IP that I have questions about. I don't understand how some things work in that universe, and so it's a way more challenging process to start from scratch. I think if you're working with a new IP, especially.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you're kind of launching. You're not launching. You're doing a reprint of Rap Godz, and you're doing Hoop Godz at the same time as a part of this game. And we had talked about on the phone just the interesting trend that we've both seen in the industry where people are launching multiple games at the same time. And you didn't do that with this game, but it did kind of have that, like, you can get both games. And we did that a little bit with Veiled Fate, where, like, obviously it's just, you can also buy our other game, Moonrakers, on the Veiled Fate Kickstarter. But this is different. People are actually, like, launching 2 side-by-side games, sometimes with similar themes, sometimes not. The dinosaur game with the Roarin' Right as well. Right. What was the name of that game? Why can't I remember?
World.
Yeah, thank you. Like that was the one that I saw where I backed both because I was like, all right, I love the theme. I love the idea of both of these games. I don't have enough Rollin' Rights in my collection. this sounds awesome. And so we backed both of those. But we were just talking about on the phone. There's another one that's live right now that has, is it 3 games all in one?
Oh, wow.
I think it is.
That just seems like so much
so.
work.
Yeah.
I can't now. I forgot the name of the one that I was thinking of too.
Yeah. Well,
but
it's live,
it's,
so
it's a
we
3.
can
It
look.
also has 3. Yeah, we can look it up.
Yeah, we can look it up. I'm fine with that.
That's the best thing about live.
But for like us, like it it makes some things more approachable. Like shipping is way more approachable when you look at it that way because you're shipping. You're saving money on shipping them both to your hubs from the manufacturer. You're saving money on shipping them. The consumer saves money because you're shipping them 2 games instead of 1 game. As far as like print logistics, it's easier. It's a bigger print job, but you don't have to do 2 completely different orders. So it does help as far as like scale goes, but it's also double the playtesting, double the pre-production, double the art, double like it's a lot. Like we never would have been able to do 2 games the size of Veiled Fate or Moonrakers. And maybe the trick is to do 1 big game and 1 small game because it kind of does seem like the Dinosaur Island, the Raw and Right was a smaller undertaking than the other game. Maybe I'm wrong. And then this other one that we were talking about, why can't we remember the name of that? Did you find it yet, Omari? The one that's live?
I feel like I had it in my saved Kickstarter, and
I didn't back it yet. It was like
I didn't either. I think
Volume
I just saved
2
it.
is also doing a reprint of Volume 1. That's not what we're talking
no,
about. No,
but that's pretty cool though.
Someone just exclaimed in the chat, and I was like, "That's the answer." But
Kapow! No, it's not the answer.
She yelled it at you.
Yeah, chat will help us out maybe. Man, it was like top of my Kickstarter page for a while, and now it is. I wonder if they finished.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like such a weird, a strange trend though. It's just like, like in video games, it's like if I had 2 indie games, I wouldn't launch them. I guess they do bundle packs of indie games, like Humble Bundle,
like
but that's
existing for a long time. Yeah.
And like, although movies used to do that, they would do like that's where B movie came from. It was like you have the for drive-in theaters, you get the back-to-back showing, right? You got the A movie and then the B movie, which is like usually like a horror movie, and some people stay for the B movie, and so maybe it's kind of like that.
Maybe
That could work.
Like the one that we were talking about earlier, Omari, it was like 3 smaller games that were all like small footprint and more approachable. And that makes sense. It's like these are 3 games that are all the same size that you can throw in your bag and like take on vacation. And you have 3 great like filler games because of that. And that is interesting to me. Go ahead, Omari.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say the one that I kind of think back to is actually Jordan Draper's series with the vending machine game and the train game, and they're all kind of Japanese themed. I remember that one at the time being kind of like breaking the precedent of being like, whoa, there's multiple games in this. And that was really the first time that I really even considered it. I was like, well, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? Like, and some of the benefits that you're talking about, you get to do manufacturing and shipping all at the same time. Like, there are some benefits to that.
Yeah, totally.
I was just bouncing around on Kickstarter. I found another one, and it actually looks like 2 kind of larger games. This is for BIOS, Mesofauna and Galenus.
Oh, I saw this. Yes.
Yeah, and they're funded by quite it looks like 3 times their funding goal, and these are 2 larger games.
Wow.
But it's interesting, right? They are sort of pitching it as one campaign that includes these 2 very different looking and differently styled games. So I'm so curious, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess if you have to tie them together in some way.
I agree.
That's kind of the important piece.
I completely agree. Like for me, it's theme. Like I don't want to buy 2 games unless it's like an expansion that's smaller. But I don't want to buy 2 games that are similar in mechanics. I want to buy a game that kind of looks like it goes together and has a really cool theme and the same artwork, but like is a chance to play 2 different mechanics.
Yeah, it would be cool if there was like a way to. I know that there are games that do this like similar or same universe where it's almost just like you're playing like different phases of a story, which would be kind of cool. Like
does sound
with different like if you made like a Star Wars like original, you had like a New Hope game that was like more like destroy the Death Star, and then
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back is
more cat and mouse.
yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, that's a bad example, but sorry.
I don't know. I got an ooh. I got an ooh.
Hey,
so
but
I
like
don't know.
no, like I really do like that. Maybe not from an IP standpoint because it might be really hard, but it also makes more sense when it's IP because you actually have a reason for the mechanics changes. But like that's something that we thought about with like Moonrakers. Like, is there a sequel to Moonrakers that has different mechanics but a similar feel? And that's a cool idea. But launching them at the same time, though, man,
That'd be awesome. But
well,
very,
I don't
very
think I would
challenging.
survive.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. It sounds terrible.
I even think about just from a sort of like organizational perspective for Kickstarter specifically, like how do you even organize the page? Like there's a very specific structure that most people kind of follow, and how do you do that for two completely separate games? You just chunk one at the top and then chunk the other one at the bottom. And it just feels very strange.
Well, even like,
what does the video look like?
Yeah, exactly. Like messaging, like on, like how do you advertise for it? Do you just advertise for which game is like performing better?
Do
Like,
you like worker placement or rolling rights? Because we got 2 games for you. I mean, it obviously worked for the Dinosaur Island. It's Dinosaur Island, right? I'm not getting that wrong.
Dinosaur World.
Dinosaur World. I knew I had it wrong. The Dinosaur Island was the old one. Okay. Yes, Dinosaur World. Like. For them, they obviously did it right because it was wildly successful. I went for both of them, and I found it very interesting between the two, and really was excited to try out both. And of course, I love dinosaurs and I love the artwork, so it makes sense. But
so Robert H in the chat was saying that Perseverance, the dinosaur game, did what I was talking about. I assume the different like stages of a narrative. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
We'll have to check that out. It was on Kickstarter 2-3 months ago, so that's really interesting. So you're how many days left in the Kickstarter now?
Ooh, where are we now? I think
13. I think 13
now. Yes.
Very nice. So you're
days
just
left.
right in the midst of it. How you feeling? How you doing? The nerves all right? Like you feeling good?
Yeah, I think we're feeling good. I think the piece of that we're a little bit nervous about is just kind of, restarting that marketing machine up after a week of really, really just like letting it go. Too many other things going on. So I'm curious whether that will take hold and whether that will actually work out for us. I feel like it will. I feel like we have done enough up to this point, so we can kind of get that rolling. And but way less nerves than the first time. The first campaign for Rap Gods, we funded literally in the last 48 hours.
Oh wow!
So and we were far off our goal with like I think 8 days left, and so. It was, we were, I want to say like 10 grand short, like 10 days left. And all sorts of wild things happened. And finally it came together at the last minute. Like so many people came out and were just like, this is super cool. And I don't know how we missed it. Please pay attention to it. And really got the word out. It was almost independent of us. We were obviously working our butts off trying to get there, but we were still really small. We still didn't have a big community, didn't have a big following. So it was really on everybody else who kind of made it happen.
Yep. The second game launch, you have fans and friends and a community built around it already. And of course, like everyone says, like when you go to Kickstarter, you have to bring your own community, you have to bring your own backers. But like, and in the first time, like you're like, yeah, I have people following me on social media and I have people I talk to, but I have no idea if those are going to convert to actually be fans and actually be supporters. And with the second game, you kind of, like, all right, these people that got Rap Gods love the game. They're going to be eager to see what we make next. We have at least a base to kind of jump off from, and that makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it definitely, made it so much easier to do a lot of things, to set our goals. We had better kind of understanding and expectation about what we could expect in the first couple days. We didn't necessarily think we would fund on the first day, but we knew just based on what we understand about the community we built, we would probably get there in the first couple days.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's so many elements to it. It's one of the things one of the things I talk to new designers about all the time is really just understanding that that community is so important and building it is so important. And you are starting from scratch essentially, and you have to get there, and you can get there with a small game, and then that second one will be that much easier, to make it happen because of exactly what you're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, how can people find you and follow you online, Omari?
Easiest way is probably Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and it's just my name, so that's easy to find me at least. I'm shifting gears a little bit on all the other social media platforms, specifically kind of around the Twitch channel. So I just
Oh, nice.
launched a Twitch channel, so that's fairly new, and that is up now. So it's Akilaverse is my
Nice.
Twitch channel handle, and it's also my handle if you're looking for me on Instagram or something else. I think that's my Steam account too. So
Nice.
it's a little more sort of like gaming related, not just board gaming. It's everything.
Okay, nice.
Game. I'm kind of wrapping all that up into a little bit of a new brand for myself.
Oh, cool. What type of games are you streaming? Like video games wise?
Well, I haven't jumped into video games just yet.
Okay.
I'm focusing on board games a little bit to start out, and I'm actually doing game design stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So thanks to you guys, I actually got to do
Yeah.
the game design jam that featured Veil of Fate.
Yeah.
And I want to do another video because my stream cut off right at the end.
Oh, that's the worst. I'm
Just
sorry.
to show kind of the final product of the game that I designed, that was inspired by Veil of Fate. So
That's awesome.
I'm looking to do more of those kinds of things, more game design jam type things, more things where I just talk about what I'm working on, decisions I'm making. And it's really, yeah, a way for me to, again, just connect with the industry to help new designers out. Because the more I do this, the more I have new designers coming to me and asking questions. And I would love to just have some content out there that
Totally.
people could look at and reference. But I'm also a huge gamer, so I've been playing a bunch of Hades. I feel like that's
Nice.
going to be the one I end up streaming.
I just bought that.
It's going to be late night with me. Yeah, going at Hades
Yeah.
relentlessly because it's that kind of game where you just
Oh,
can't
yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, that'll probably be one of the first ones.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but that's because we were in the middle of the Kickstarter campaign. So it's
Yeah, and you gotta catch up on Squadrons.
I got to catch up on Squadrons. I've
You've
only
been
gotten halfway through.
Dreaming about that game.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that is very true. I'm a Star Wars nerd if you haven't been able to tell yet. Anyway, all right, so 2 questions to close us out. One is going to be what game you're excited about. And then, like, it could be something that you just got or something that you're waiting on or something that's about to release. And then also, you have a shoe question, Zach? Do you want to ask
Oh,
him
I
about?
don't.
You
I guess. Well, what are you wearing right now?
If anything.
Socks, probably.
Probably, yeah. I'm wearing
Probably,
socks.
nice.
Yeah, but I just got those Jordans behind me. I can show them to you.
Yeah,
Please
do.
do. Please do.
I was so excited. This was actually my you got your Kickstarter funded gift to myself.
Oh, I love
Nice.
that.
But yeah, I used the sneakers app for the first time.
Nice.
And I got these.
And you didn't
They're super subtle. They're just all black with these purple accents.
love it.
And it's one of I would say this is probably one of my favorite Jordan models that out of all of the millions of shoes that he has with his name on them now.
Oh yeah.
That one's one of my favorite.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was really important to treat yourself when you do hard things.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what drives me to do hard things.
Yep. Otherwise,
Have a
it's not
little-
worth it. Yep.
Right?
And shoes is a
I
great
gotta
way.
treat myself at the end. Shoes is great. I do appreciate them a lot.
And I'm glad you didn't take an L on the sneakers app because that's pretty much all I've been getting this year. So,
Just like
I
not
don't
been able to get
know.
anything.
oh yeah, no, just try
It's
to get
really hard.
try
I
to get.
watched a YouTube video about how to actually get a W on there.
If you
It's
if
really
you if you
difficult.
find out, let me know. I mean, I knew I went for all the Union Jordans that just dropped. I don't know if you
Yeah.
you went for the nothing.
I
man.
tried
all
for
three.
2 of those, I think.
I got
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, that would have been a big get, though. I mean, those are pretty hard to get.
Those are
but-
huge. They're really huge.
Sam's probably sad he's not here to talk about
I
shoes.
know.
Yeah.
He's,
Sam and Zach are our sneakerheads. I just put on some Adidas and I'm like, these are kind of cool, I think. I'll wear these. Anyway, so the first question, though, what game are you excited about right now that you're either waiting on or that's about to launch?
Back to games. So
Sorry.
I would say probably, and I think this one has just been on my mind the most over the last year in terms of just like wanting to have it and play. But Wonderland's War from Skybound. It's like it was last year at Gen Con. I was like, I want to go watch this game. Like it was really one that stood out to me. So I'm waiting on that copy to get to me. I haven't been paying attention to updates or anything, so I really don't know, but I'm guessing it's got to be sometime close.
Yeah. Well, they're also they're just delivering title blades too. Skybound is, so I think everyone's really hyped for anything Skybound right now. And we just played Failed Fate with James on Board Game Spotlight, and that was a blast. And so we got to talk to him a little bit about his upcoming games and also title blades. But
wait, do we have title blades?
No, we haven't gotten it yet. It looks awesome. But going back to,
it does look awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen so many pictures.
Yeah, it's been very, very hot on Instagram and everything else right now. But anyway, on Wonderland's War, that one intrigued me just because it's Alice in Wonderland, but they took a new spin on it, right? Like they took some liberties with the lore and made it their own.
Yeah, which I thought personally was pretty fascinating. I like games that kind of do that, and I feel like they did that with the other game, the Grim can't remember the name of it, but
Grim Forest, Grim
Forest, maybe. And I feel like they kind of did it with that story. But yeah, in this one, I believe the everything's kind of in shambles in Wonderland, and so everybody's kind of more like fending for themselves instead of working collectively in this world. And like, kind of sneaky and sly and trying to, somehow be the top person in this new world. But the mechanics to that game is really what intrigued me the most, just combining sort of these two phases, like the Tea Party, and then there's a war after, and the entire Tea Party is this sort of odd collection of mechanics that really make you kind of think and fight for positioning, and then turn around and you have this war game at the end that's really a push your luck game based on everything you've done during the Tea Party. Like,
that's sweet.
It was just such a fascinating combination of things. I was like, and I've never had a chance to play it still. I'm really just looking forward to being able to hopefully sometime soon.
So I looked at title blades way more than Wonderland's War, but I'm excited to hear those mechanics from you, because that sounds like something I'd love. It's almost like I'm sure it's nothing like this, but I just have it in my brain apparently. But like in Twilight Imperium, where you have the meeting in the center, and then you you vote on laws and you do all that stuff, and then you go back out, and then it's a big war. And it kind of reminds me of that. And I like that. I like that element of like negotiating and talking and being friendly at a tea party, and then like, all right, time to go kill each other. That's great. Yeah. Well, Omari, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have anything else to mention?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Go back the Kickstarter. You only have a few days left.
Yeah, 13 days. But it's like a few days. Yeah, go do it now before. Yeah. But it's the link for Hoop Godz is right on the show notes underneath the video. So please go check out their Kickstarter. Looks like really, really interesting gameplay and maybe a dice tray. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm really, really excited, and I really want you guys to make it to get those models, because the sample model that you guys have on the page looks great.
We got to get there,
and that would be really great. And I mean, 100,000 is very approachable for 13 days left. So, really excited to see how the campaign ends.
I think so.
Yeah, we're rooting for you, and we're backers.
Too.
So
it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, man, congratulations.
No, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to see what happens in the next 13 days. Yeah. And I think it's gonna be a wild one, but I think we're ready for it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that, and thank you so much for being on the stream. I have to awkwardly get up and go turn the stream off at our producer's desk because he's not here. So I'll be right back while I go do that. Zach, you just want to talk for a second?
Yeah, no, it'll be great.
Well, I'll ask you a question,
Yeah.
Zach. How about that?
That's great.
Favorite shoe?
I
Period.
It's maybe a pretty basic answer, but the Jordan 1 is my favorite silhouette. I'm wearing some right now.
Love it.
Got my pine.
Oh yeah.
Got my
Got
pine
some green
greens.
ones.
Yeah, the highs always.
Nice.
So
I was gonna say, where's mine? I think
Yeah.
they're over here. See if I can get him before he turns it off.
yeah. No, don't turn it off, Austin. We have to see the shoe.
Yeah, I have some.
Oh, very
Yeah,
nice.
Some
Yes.
rose gold, and this is like snake skin on this part too.
Ooh,
So yeah,
Very cool.
that's cool. There you go. We got to nerd out about shoes a little bit more.
Just a little bit
Now
more.
we can end the stream.
Now we can. Well, thanks so much for being here, man. It was great to chat. So, bye everybody.
Cool.
Thanks for
See
watching.
ya.
And we're clear. All right.